Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Deryk, and I'm an alcoholic. And thank you, Teresa. I was trying to look around, trying to figure out who you was talking about, because I said she can't be talking about me. But I love you, T. I love you, T. Ali, thank you for asking me to come out and do what we do, and thank all you for being here. Really, sincerely. Um, like I said, my name is Deryk, and I'm an alcoholic, and that means something to me today. You know, that means something to me today. I'm sober by the grace and mercy of a loving God of my own understanding. And if you be new or relatively new like myself, I like to say welcome to this fellowship and welcome to starting your life all over again. I want to thank all the speakers that spoke before me and carried this message so eloquently. And I'm grateful to be a part of Alcoholics Anonymous. It truly has changed my life. And I like what the last speaker said is that, I have the gift of recovery and the gift of being an alcoholic. I used to think it was a curse, but it is truly a gift. I don't know what my life would be like if I had not came to the understanding that what was wrong with me is that I'm an alcoholic, and that's what's wrong with me. And today, that's what's right with me, the fact that I'm an alcoholic. My life and my children's lives, my family's lives, and my friends' lives, I believe, have been transformed as a result of this program and me being an alcoholic. Who passed away, a lot of you know her. She adopted me when I was new in this program. And she used to share this story that I'm gonna share with you right now. So there was a little Indian boy, and he was standing with a stockbroker on the streets of New York. And if any of you have ever been to New York, it's fucking busy. Everything's moving fast. People's moving fast. It's loud. It's a lot of stuff going on. And the little Indian boy looked at the stockbroker and he said, "Shh, did you hear that? Did you hear that?" And the stockbroker said, "Hear what?" And he said, "Did you hear the cricket?" And the stockbroker said, "Nah, I didn't hear no cricket." And the little Indian boy said, "Well, follow me." And he took him down the street, and then he took him down an alley, and then he took him up a flight of stairs. And at the top of the stairs was a flower pot. And he picked up the flower pot. And when he picked up the flower pot, there was a cricket. And the stockbroker said, "Now, how in the hell did you hear that?" And the little Indian boy said it was simple. And he put the pot back over the cricket, and he took the stockbroker back down the stairs, and he took him back down the alley, and he took him back to the spot where they first stood. And as they were walking, he reached in his pocket and he pulled out a coin and he flipped it over his shoulder. And when the coin hit the ground, the stockbroker turned around and looked right at it. And so did everybody else. And the little Indian boy just laughed. He said, "See, you hear what you're listening for." I'm here to share with you today that you hear what you're listening for. If you came here today to hear all the speakers say something that you didn't necessarily agree with, you'll hear that. If you came here today and you're listening for me to say something that you haven't found in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, oh, you'll hear that. But if you're here to hear the message of recovery, you'll hear that too, because we hear what we're listening for. I went to my first treatment program back in 1988, not 1998, not 2008. I was already tore up in 1988. And when I went into treatment in 1988, they told me a few things. See, when I went into treatment, I'm a military veteran, and I went to the VA hospital, and I knew I had a problem. I knew I had a problem with these party favors, but I did not believe I was an alcoholic. I wasn't convinced I was an alcoholic. But they told me if I wanted to get treatment at that time, that I had to stand up for 28 days and say, "My name is Deryk and I'm an alcoholic." And because I wanted some help, I did that. I stood up for 28 days and I said, "Hey, Daryl, how you doing? I'm an alcoholic." "Hey, what's going on, Ali? How you doing? I'm an alcoholic." "Teresa, hey, what's up? I'm an alcoholic." but because you stand up in a meeting and say you're an alcoholic, that don't make you an alcoholic. You better find out what your truth is. You better find out if you really be an alcoholic. Are you ready just hanging out with us, wasting some good party time? You got to find out what your truth is. Because my truth is not going to keep you sober. In fact, your truth won't keep you sober either. See, truth is a point of reference. If you can't figure out where you've been, you can't figure out where you need to go. If you don't comprehend the problem, how can you go after the solution with the necessary fervor that it takes for this program to consummate itself in your life? You better find out your truth. I'm grateful for that program because they told me some things. They told me some things. They said, go to meetings, work the steps, get a sponsor, find a God. Well, if you be the alcoholic of my type, I don't like following directions. I got out of that program. When I got out of that program, I wasn't going to go to no meetings. I wasn't going to work no steps, and I wasn't going to get no sponsor. I wasn't doing none of that. I just wasn't going to drink or use no matter what. Shortly after that, I got loaded. I go back to another program in 1989, and this time I'm sweetly reasonable. This time I'm gonna get me one of them sponsor dudes. Yeah, I'm gonna get me a sponsor, and I'm gonna go to meetings, but I ain't gonna work no steps. Nah, I ain't gonna do that. Shortly after that, I got loaded. I go back to another program in 1991, and this time I'm gonna work the steps with a sponsor, but not go to meetings because I don't want y'all to know I relapse. Shortly after that, I got loaded. I go back to another program in 1992. And this time, I'm going to go to meetings and work the steps without a sponsor. Shortly after that, I got loaded. I go back to another program in 1993. You understand what I'm trying to say? I tried this thing every imaginable way, but the result was nil until I let go absolutely. Now, I'm not going to come up here and tell you that you better keep going to meetings and you better work the steps and you better get a sponsor because I don't know what the hell you got to do. I know what I got to do. I got to keep coming to meetings so I can see what happened to people who stopped coming to meetings. I got to get a sponsor because I need somebody on planet Earth to tell the truth to. See, because I lie when the truth would be sufficient. I lie to me and don't even know I'm lying to me. That's how I'm wired. And I got to work these steps. I got to work these steps because I got to face and be rid of those things that block me from God. See, I suffer from 100 different forms of fear. I'm afraid of being afraid. I'm afraid you're going to find out I'm afraid. I'm afraid not to know. I'm afraid to be wrong. I'm afraid. I got problems, and my problems are of a much deeper nature. My drinking was but a symptom of a much deeper problem. And so what happened was when I got out of that treatment program, I didn't do none of that stuff. I didn't go to meetings. I didn't work the steps. I didn't get a sponsor, and I got loaded. And I had to find out what my problem was so that I could understand that the solution was simple for complicated people. Oh, we complicated. If you be alcoholic, you complicated. If you don't believe that, try getting in a relationship with another alcoholic and you'll find out just how complicated we can be. But this program puts us in a position that we don't always have to agree. We don't always have to be on the same page, but thank God we're working out the same book. This is a program of honesty. So what it was like for me, I don't want y'all to get it twisted because that's what we share. What it was like, what happened, and what it's like today. And what it was like for me was a lot like what it was like for a lot of you in these squares. It was a whole lot of insanity. It was a whole lot of insanity, a whole lot of paranoia, and a whole lot of fear. And I don't know when, and I don't know where, and I don't know if it was the alcohol, the Cisco, the OE. I don't know what made me cross the invisible line. And today I don't spend a lot of time trying to figure that out. I know one thing and one thing only, that I've crossed over to the other side, that I'm in a dimension for which there is no return. The book says science may one day accomplish it, but it hadn't done so yet. I drink because I like the effect produced by alcohol. I thought I drank because I enjoyed drinking. I didn't realize that I had crossed over into a dimension that I drank not because I wanted to, but because I had to. See, because I can't do life on life's terms. I cannot confront everyday situations in life without something to take me out of me, to make me feel better about me so that I can be me. Oh, you don't understand what I'm saying. I've got this thing in me that I'm so obsessed with what you think about me that I will make myself feel bad for you to feel better. I will do things to make you feel good that I don't feel good about. I will say yes to things that I don't even want to say yes to because I want you to be happy and it makes me upset. What is wrong with me? I have the mind of an alcoholic. I suffer with an unsatisfied mind. What does that mean? That means that I have the disease of more. They didn't make enough cars for me to have enough of them and say, okay, I'm good now. Something is wrong with me. I suffer with this unsatisfied mind. My mind continues to play tricks on me. I was at a certain age and I said, when I turn a certain age, I'm going to buy this certain car. And this was a car that I wanted because I seen it in the videos and I seen people who were successful driving it. And I said, I got to have this car. And I start saving my money. For 5 years, I saved my money. And when I turned this age, I bought this car. And when I bought the car, I got the car before my birthday. And I didn't even drive it. I parked it in the garage and I waited till my birthday. But let me tell you something about an unsatisfied mind. When I went to the car lot to pick this car up, I get the car, I'm driving off the lot. I'm still trying to figure out what all the knobs and the buttons do. I got the massager working in the chair that I'm sitting in and I'm playing with all the knobs. And as I'm on the freeway, a Ferrari passes by and I turn over and I said, wow, I really need one of those. What the is that? That's an unsatisfied mind. I don't care how bad I want something. When I want something else. She can't be pretty enough. It can't never be enough because there's something wrong with me. So now I'm learning that in life, it's not about getting everything that I want. It's about learning to want everything that I have. This is a process and it's a design for living. And this is a plan that will help me do this thing called life without driving myself completely insane. I said completely because I am insane. I am insane. See, because I have some insane, peculiar thoughts that normal people don't have. See, I'm sober today. I got license, registration, insurance, all that stuff. I'll be on my motorcycle some days and I'll pull up to the stoplight. And I got all the things I need. I'm not worried. I look over, I see a police car. Don't bother me. I'm look over and I see them and my mind says something like this. I wonder what would happen if I just spit on the police and drive off real fast. What the hell is that? That is insane. I know what's going to happen. Y'all going to see me on the news, high-speed chase. They're going to beat me up. I already know what's going to happen, but I got the mind of an alcoholic. I can't stop myself from thinking what I think. I come up with some strange, peculiar thoughts. That's where I come from. That's who I am. And I'm so grateful today. I'm grateful for people like you in rooms like this that allow me the luxury to be as Teresa said, my authentic self. So what happened? What happened for Deryk is that I got toe up. I got that tailor-made ass whooping. You know, I don't know what you guys know what that is. Tailor-made, see, where I come from, I grew up in South Central, and back in the day when we was in school, they had these things called tees. They was called tailors, and that means you got it made for you. It was a pair of pants that had these little stitches down the side, and it was tailor-made, like a suit. It only fit you. It was made perfectly for you. Well, I got a tailor-made ass whooping. It fit me perfectly. It might not fit you. It might not have been your size, but it was my size. It fit me just perfectly. And it was sufficient enough to bring me to a place where I knew I had to do something different. I had to do something different. I had to do something different. So what am I going to do? First, I got to understand what the problem is. I got a problem. See, I got this obsession in my mind. This obsession is the thought that overrides all other thoughts, that tells me continually that one day I'll be able to control it and enjoy it. I'm obsessed with that thought. I got this allergy in my body that once I put anything in my body that affects me from the neck up, I'm off and running. And I got this sick spirit, this hole in my gut that no matter how good things are, I feel like I'm empty. No matter how many people are around, I feel like I'm alone. I got this longing for something. Well, the other speaker said it that, deep down inside of us is the fundamental belief of God in every man, woman, and child. This God thing. See, that's going to be a problem. So that's going to be a problem for me. See, because I don't understand God the way you guys understand God. See, my problem is this, is that I thought that if I had a sufficient enough reason to stop drinking, that I could quit. If I had a good enough reason, and a good enough reason presented itself. One day, I was on a different program. I was on the cognac marijuana maintenance program. I don't know if any of y'all ever been on that program. That's where I'm going to drink cognac and I'm going to do marijuana, but I'm not going to do any of those other substances. That's what I was on. And on that program, I was at the park and I'm in this park and I'm playing with my son. And you know, my son is, you know, I took a hostage early on, you know, right out of high school. I married her, and I say she's a hostage because I took her hostage right out of, we got out of high school, and I married her. And I had this thing that I couldn't stop. I had this disease. I had developed this allergy, and I couldn't stop once I got started. And I'm at the park and I'm playing around with my son and I'm spinning him on the merry-go-round and we having fun and laughing. And my son comes up to me and he says, "Daddy, my throat is hurting." And I said, "Don't worry about it, son." And I go to the ice cream truck, I buy him a popsicle. I say, "Suck on this, you're gonna be all right." And we start playing some more and I'm throwing the football to him and I'm doing all the things I think a father's supposed to do. And my son comes back up to me and he starts coughing real bad. He says, "Daddy, my throat is hurting." I said, "Don't worry about it, son. It's time for us to go anyway." So we leave the park. I swing by the store. I get him some cough drops. I say, "Suck on these. You're going to be all right." And then I take him home. And when I take him home, I tell him to go take his bath. And when he goes to take his bath, he comes out of the bathroom and he's coughing so bad he can't even talk. He's going, "Daddy, my throat, my throat." And so I said, "Don't worry about it, son, you know, because I'm his daddy. I think I got some power." What I do, I go to the store, I get some chloroseptic, I spray it in his throat, I tuck him in the bed, I kiss him on his forehead, and I tell him he's going to be all right. Why? Because I think I got some power. And then right around midnight, my son stopped breathing. Now you guys running around here talking about you powerless. Oh, I'm powerless over the man. I'm powerless over my woman. I'm powerless over my job. Do you really believe you powerless? Do you really believe you powerless? If you really, my baby died. But because I think I got some power, I grab his body, I rush him to the emergency room, I'm giving him mouth to mouth. When I get him in the emergency room, I start telling everybody what to do. You go get a doctor, you go get a gurney. And they said, "No, this is what you do. You're gonna come over here and sign this paper. That's gonna give us authorization to give your son a tracheotomy. That's a hole in his throat so he can breathe, else he's going to die." When you run out of solutions, you'll take a suggestion. So I took the suggestion, I signed the paper, but I do what I always do when my back is against the wall. I said, "Where's the chapel? Because I need to go pray." If you let my baby live, I promise I will never get loaded again. And I meant that. I meant that. With every fiber of my being, I said, if you let my baby live, I will never get loaded again. And I got up off the floor with tears running down my face and I ran back to the emergency room and they didn't have to give my son a tracheotomy. They had to give him, they took a tube and stuck it down his nose, in through his throat and into his lungs so he could breathe. And they put him in an oxygen tent for 2 weeks. And I stayed in the hospital for 2 weeks. I'm not talking about coming and going. I'm talking about his mama got to bring me some change of clothes. I'm not leaving my baby. He's my firstborn. He carries my name. He's everything. I'm not leaving my child in the hospital. And I stay there for 2 weeks by his bedside, day in, day out, saying, "God, please spare my boy. God, please spare my boy. God, please spare my boy." And at the end of 2 weeks, they came to me and they said, "We don't know what happened. We can't explain it. But your son is perfectly fine." And I said, "Thank you, God." And they took him out of intensive care and they put him in pediatrics. And I said, "Thank you, God." And then they took him out of the oxygen tent and he started to breathe on his own. And I said, "Thank you, God." Then they put the tube out of his nose and out of his lungs and he was completely breathing on his own. And I said, "Thank you, God." And then I left the hospital and went and got loaded. Now understand what I'm saying. When I left the hospital and got loaded, I didn't mean I didn't leave the hospital because I was playing games with God. I didn't leave the hospital and go get loaded because I didn't mean the prayer I prayed. I left the hospital and got loaded because I'm an alcoholic. And in and of myself, my disease don't care what promises I make or who I make them to. I stayed on a run for over 7 days. I left my baby in the hospital. Back then they had pagers. They was paging me, telling me to come get my son. I couldn't make it back to the hospital. They didn't understand how a man who would not leave his son's bedside for 2 weeks when he's sick, now that he's well, won't come pick up his child. But if you suffer with the disease of alcoholism, you understand. Once I start, I can't stop. So I come back from this binge. I get back to my house. And when I get back to my house, I stick my...
You muted, Deryk. You muted.
The key don't fit in the... I forced to knock on the door, but when I knock on the door, I look around and I see all these cars out front that I recognize. My mother's there. My uncle's there. My cousins are there. My whole family is inside the house. See, I don't know about you, but when you have a child that's deathly ill, your whole family know about it. When you leave your baby in the hospital and don't come pick them up, your whole family know about it. They inside, I'm outside. I've been on a run for over 7 days. I'm dirty, filthy, and nasty. I done already sold everything that I could that had value. I took the belt out my pants. I got an extension cord holding up my pants because I've been on a binge. I done already pawned the wedding ring and I pawned my wife's car. This is what I do once I take one. I can't stop. I show up at the door and I knock on the door and my son answers the door. When my son answers the door, he looks at me and he says, "Daddy, I want you to move." And I said, "What?" And he said, "Daddy, I want you to move." And I said, "Move? What are you talking about, son?" He says, "Daddy, you can't stay here no more. See, because when you leave, you make my mama cry. And I don't want my mama crying no more." You talk about pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization. Pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization is me hearing my son tell me I got to leave my house. After that, you know what I had to do, right? I got to go get a drink. See, because I can't process that kind of hurt and that kind of pain in a sober state. I have to drink. So what happened? I went on a full-blown binge. I got all the way out there. I was homeless and hopeless. I was sleeping under a freeway. I had a plastic bag and a dirty t-shirt and a pair of jeans and a sweatshirt to my name. That's how I was living, like an animal. I was living like a savage. I was living outside. I can't tell you the last time I slept outside, but I remember the first time. I remember the first night that I laid behind the liquor store. And behind the liquor store, they had those white pylons that you pull your car up to. I took a piece of cardboard out the trash. I laid it over those little pylons on the ground, and that became my pillow. And I laid down and went to sleep behind the liquor store. I remember the first day, but that wasn't the last day. I'm a real one. No matter how great the necessity or the wish, I can't stop. But what had to happen to me is I had to come to understanding what my problem was. My problem is of a much deeper nature. It's I suffer from this obsession in my mind, this allergy in my body, and this spiritual malady. So what do? I check myself back into treatment. And this time, I'm going to do everything y'all tell me to do. I go back to the Salvation Army in Santa Monica, and I walk in there more dead than alive. I had a rash on the bottom half of my body because I hadn't had no bath in months. When I went into treatment, they took my shoes off and the bottom layer of my foot was stuck to the shoe. They thought they were going to have to amputate my foot. See, I'm a foot soldier. I'm a real one. When I go out, I'm out. I'm not coming back. I checked myself into treatment and they told me, you better get you a sponsor, go to meetings, work the steps, and find you a God. I walked into the Salvation Army and I went into the privacy of my own space, which happened to be the bathroom stall. And I got honest with myself for the first time in my life. I got honest with God. I said, look here, God, I don't know what your name is. I don't know what religion you in. All I know, God, is that I need you and I need you now. And if you don't stand between me and the next one, I'm going to get loaded again. That's as honest as I can be. That's as honest as I can be. See, because what happened for me is, like I told you guys, I don't understand God the way you understand God. When I relapsed back in '88, I went to the Catholic church. See, because as a child, I was baptized Catholic. And then one day my mom came to me and she said, "Oh, time out. We ain't going to be Catholics no more. We're going to become Muslims." Took me out of Catholic school, put me in the University of Islam. I had to learn how to read and write in Arabic. I had to learn how to pray in Arabic. And I started believing in that God because I had childlike faith. And then as I got older, I met my ex-wife and she was a Christian. She was the closest thing to God I'd ever seen. She didn't drink, she didn't smoke, she didn't curse. She went to church 3 times a week, twice on Sundays. And when I met her, she was still a virgin. I knew she had a God. So when you people told me I had to find God, that was going to be a problem for me because I don't understand God like you understand God. I know you know what his name is and what religion he's in and all that spiritual. Let me tell you something. I didn't know. When I relapsed back in '89, I went back to the Catholic church. They told me to go to confession, do these Hail Marys and Our Fathers on the rosary beads. I did everything they told me to do. And then shortly after that, I got loaded. When I went back to treatment back in 1990, this time I'm reasonable. But I go back. I go back to the Nation of Islam and I take my Shahada. I made salat. I prayed on my face 5 times a day. I read, I fasted, I stopped eating pork. I did everything they tell me to do. And then shortly after that, I got loaded. I said, I know why I can't stay sober. I know why. Y'all know why. I ain't been saved. That's why I can't stay sober. I ain't been saved. I go back to the Christian church. They laid hands on me. They prayed the demons out of me. I got baptized, filled with the Holy Ghost, anointed with oil. I spoke in tongues. I did all that. And then I got loaded. Now, I'm not here telling you that religion don't work. In fact, if you read the big book, they say you need to be quick to see where religious people have been right all along. I'm not telling you that religion don't work. I'm telling you that it didn't work for me. And the reason why it didn't work for me is because I didn't believe it deep down in my gut. See, that Catholic God, oh, that was my daddy's God. That Muslim God, oh, that's my mama's God. That Christian God, oh, that's my ex-wife's God. But where was my God? I didn't have no God. Thank God for Alcoholics Anonymous. Thank God in his infinite wisdom, he saw fit to create a place like this for people like me so I could find my way back home. I don't know what the steps are for you, but the steps for me are a path back to God. See, if God lead me back to a religion, trust me, I'm going to go. But for now, he led me to Alcoholics Anonymous. So for now, I think I'll stay. Find you a God of your own understanding. So what happened when I went into that bathroom stall, I made a deal with God that day. I said, look here, God, I don't know what your name is. I don't know what religion you is, but I need you and I need you now. And I made a deal with God that day. That was August 14th, 1993. I said, God, if you stand in the way between me and the next one, I will tell people that it is because of you that is why I'm here. I made a deal with God. The next time I think about drinking, I'm going to pray. And then you better take the thought away. Because if you don't, I'm going to get drunk. That was the deal I made. And then I got up off my knees and I said, thank you, Father, in the name of Jesus, Allahu Akbar, because I didn't want to leave nobody out, just in case, because I didn't know. And I'm here to share with you, you don't got to know what God's name is. You don't got to know what religion he's in. All you got to do is know what he does. God takes the worst of us He brings out the best in us. And he says, look what I can do with a life if you just give me a chance. Find you a God of your own understanding, and your conception of God is sufficient enough for you, just like mine is for me. I don't debate doctrine and religion and chapter and verse with you political scholars. I leave that to you intelligent people. Find you a God of your understanding. And that conception of God is sufficient enough for you, just like mine is for me. And if you can't find a God that you understand, hell, find a God that understands you. Find a God that understands that you don't understand. I've been around here long enough to know that it's he who has many names. I don't care what you call him, just call. Tap into a power that gives you some power to say, no, thank you, I'm not going to drink today. Find you a power that will allow you to live life on life's terms. Step one says, I'm powerless and my life is unmanageable. I can't manage my life in and of myself. I'm going to screw it up. I came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. That's why I came. I didn't believe. That's why I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. I came to believe that the power could restore me to sanity because I know I was crazy. I'm living like an animal. And I made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understood him. If you read it in the big book, it says understood, not understand. Why does it say understood? Because more is going to be revealed. I turn my will and my life, my thinking and my actions over to the care of this power. And one day at a time, it helps me recreate my life. I'm going to share this and I'm going to close. I got sober. And once I got sober, I took my son back to that park. And I was having a real spiritual day. And sometimes you have those spiritual days where everything is beautiful, where the sky seems brighter, the sun seems more radiant, the flowers seem to bloom. I was having one of those days. I'm sitting on a hill up at the park, and I'm on the hill and I'm looking down, and my son is playing in the sandbox, and they have these little rocking horses with a spring on the bottom. And my son is rocking back and forth on this horse, and I'm sitting up there as a proud father, and I'm having a beautiful day, and I'm sober. And I see a little boy walk up to my son, and the little boy is a few years older than my son, and I could see some drama kicking off. And I'm sitting up on the hill watching, because I'm a man, I got some ego. I want to make sure my son ain't no punk, right? So I'm watching the drama kick off, and then I see the little boy getting a little aggressive with my son. So I start to make my way down the hill. And as I start walking down the hill, I hear the little boy, because the little boy is standing in front of my son. My son's back is to me, and he's sitting on this horse. And I walk up from behind my son, and I hear the little boy say, man, if you don't get off this horse, I'm going to punch you in your face. And my son stopped rocking the horse, and he looked at him, and he said, you just going to have to punch me because I was on here first. And the little boy raised his hand, and then he looked up, and he realized that I was his father. And he dropped his hand, and he walked away. And you know what my son did, right? My son started rocking the horse like, what? Like, yeah, like what? Like he had done something, right? My son thought it was him that made that little boy walk away. He didn't realize that it was me standing behind him that saved his behind that day. At that moment, I had a spiritual experience. I realized that that's how I've been my whole life. That every time something good happened to me, I want to say, look at me and get my chest out. It ain't been me, it's been God standing behind me. Every time I get a good job or a good woman, or I get something good in my life, I want to say, hey, y'all, look at me. It ain't me, it's been God standing behind me. When I realized that it was been God behind me the whole time, I took God out the back and I put him in the front. And today I walk behind him and I don't walk in fear. I thank God for Alcoholics Anonymous. I thank God for the life I live today. I'm overpaid. I'm overpaid. What happened for me can happen for you. I live a life beyond my wildest dreams. I live a life beyond, I told you I come from sleeping under the freeway. Y'all see me sitting here on a boat. I spend 90% of my time living on the ocean. I love the life that I live. And I'm not telling you that to brag. I'm telling you that because this is where I find my peace. It is, you couldn't have told me that my life would be like this. I didn't know what life could be like without drinking. I love the life I live, and I live this life I love, and I'm eternally grateful. I truly believe this, that God reached down under the freeway He picked me up and he dusted me off and he gave me the life you see me living for one reason and one reason only. Because he knew I would come here today and tell you that he did. And I truly believe that my God keeps me sober one day at a time. So the next time y'all see me, you'll know that he does. Thank y'all for letting me share.